The rain had stopped only moments before the funeral began, not enough time for the ground to dry, just enough time for the air to feel heavier. Silver mist hung low between the gravestones and every sound felt muted as if the world itself was holding its breath. Somewhere far away, a crow called once, then went quiet. Black umbrellas formed a slow, moving shadow as people gathered. Polished shoes avoided puddles. Soft whispers floated and vanished. At the center of it all, a single white casket rested above an open grave, waiting. Helena Witford. To the world, she was a headline, the only daughter of Charles Witford, wealth, legacy, a life that seemed complete from the outside. To the people standing here, she was a memory already being sealed away. The priest stepped forward, his voice gentle, practiced, words about peace, about rest, about endings. No one noticed the man standing near the back. He wore a neon green uniform dulled by years of sun and rain. The fabric clung to him, still wet. Mud darkened the edges of his boots. His cap was clutched in his hands, fingers tight, knuckles pale. He had tried to stay still, tried to stay invisible the way he always did. But his chest felt too tight, his breath came shallow, and as the casket began to lower, something inside him broke through fear. He stumbled forward. A few heads turned, annoyed. Someone hissed under their breath, "This was not a place for mistakes." "She's not dead." The words fell into the mist, thin but sharp. Everything stopped. The man stood there trembling, Matteo Reyes, a street cleaner most people passed without seeing. His eyes were fixed on the casket, wide with certainty and terror, not the kind that seeks attention, the kind that knows time is running out. Charles Witford turned slowly, his face was carved from grief and disbelief. "Who are you?" he asked, not loudly but with a cold edge that silenced the murmurs. Matteo swallowed. He was not used to being asked questions by men like this. He cleaned streets before dawn, he ate alone, he went home to a small room where no one waited, but he lifted his chin anyway. "I clean Maple Row," he said, "where your daughter used to walk." A few people shifted, uncomfortable, curious. Matteo's voice shook, but he didn't stop. He spoke of mornings when Helena passed him with her dog, how she slowed her steps instead of speeding past, how she looked him in the eyes, how she asked if his hands hurt in winter, how she once brought him coffee without a word, just a smile, as if kindness required no explanation. "She noticed things," he said softly, "people, small things." The memory pulled him backward to a cold night in the park. Helena on a bench, her skin pale, her breath barely there. Everyone else had walked by, everyone else had assumed. Matteo had stopped. "I held her hand," he said. "It moved, just a little, like she was asking me not to leave." An ambulance, rushed lights, a medic mentioning something rare, a condition where life hides so deep it almost disappears. Matteo had stayed, insisted, repeated himself until his voice went hoarse. Then he was told to go, told he didn't understand, told he had no place there. Now, standing at the edge of her grave, he finally did. "I know how this sounds," he said, looking around at the faces that had never looked at him before. "But please, just look again." Silence pressed down harder than the rain ever had. Helena's mother raised a hand to her mouth, already bracing for pain. The priest hesitated, caught between ritual and something else, something human. Charles Witford stared at Matteo for a long moment. In that pause, something shifted, not belief, not yet, but doubt. He nodded once. The lid was lifted. Helena lay there peacefully as if asleep beneath glass. Her hair framed her face, too still, too quiet. Matteo stepped closer. His hands shook as he pulled a small mirror from his pocket, scratched, ordinary. He held it beneath her nose. Nothing. A heartbeat passed, then another. Just when hope began to crumble, a faint cloud brushed the edge of the glass. A breath. Chaos broke open, voices rose, hands moved. Someone shouted for a doctor. A pulse was found, barely there but real. The world rushed forward as the impossible unfolded. The ambulance doors slammed, sirens tore through the mist. Matteo stood alone, his uniform soaked, his heart pounding with something fragile and bright. He didn't cheer, he didn't cry, he just stood there watching hope disappear down the road. Hours later, in a hospital hallway washed in white light, Matteo sat on a metal bench. His boots left wet marks on the floor, his hands wouldn't stop shaking. A shadow fell beside him. Charles Whitford sat down slowly as if unsure how to exist in this space. For the first time there was no distance between them. "You saved my daughter," he said, his voice cracked. No cameras, no witnesses, just truth. Matteo looked down. "She saved me first." Days passed before Helena woke. When she did, her first question was why Matteo looked so tired. When she learned what he had done, she held his hands and cried, not softly, not politely, but with the force of someone who had been given back her life. "I saw you," she whispered, even when no one else did. The city talked for weeks, about miracles, about mistakes, about the man no one noticed. Matteo didn't change much. He still rose before dawn, still worked quietly. But now when he walked the streets, people looked back, and in that looking something healed. Helena lived, and because one invisible man chose to speak, many others learned to listen. If this story stayed with you, take a moment to like it. Share it with someone who needs a reminder that quiet courage matters. Subscribe for more soulful stories like this. And in the comments, write just one word.